something that comes up very often is that people get into analysis paralysis because there are so many different frameworks and options. And do you have any tips on how people can find the right framework for them? Or should they just try something out and stick with it? Or should they try out different frameworks? Or are there any specific frameworks that are just much better than others? What is your view on this? How can people find the right frameworks and tools for them when they want to do web development?
Yeah, that's a great question because that is such a common thing. I usually recommend when people ask me this that if their goal is to land a job at a company, to try to do some research into what jobs are available to them and see what frameworks or programming languages or things like that seem to be the most common. So, for example, in the JavaScript frameworks, I would say React is probably the most popular by volume. So that if you decide to learn React versus Vue or Angular, I think it's hard to go wrong just because it's so everywhere. But other than that, I think the most important thing is to just try to learn one thing to a certain level of proficiency, because let's say you start out and you learn Vue. I think after learning that, it's more easy for you to switch over to another framework like React or Angular if you have to for a job. So it's kind of like when you learn one thing to a certain level, you kind of understand the principles behind it, and then it's easier to learn something else. I think the same thing is true for programming languages. Like if you learn one language, then it's a little bit easier to pick up the other one because a lot of it is just syntax differences.
Yeah, and it's similar in Android development, where people always ask if they should start with Java or Kotlin. And the answer is it doesn't really matter, because if you learn Java, then you will pick up Kotlin very quickly. And it's the same with frameworks. And usually when you understand one of them, then you have a relatively easy time getting into another one. So people should usually not overthink this. I think this is the only mistake you can really make, is overthinking it and postponing it all the time. Just pick one and go with that.